Hi there. Welcome to Travel and Photo Today. My name is Bruce, and I'm the guy that's generally on the other side of the camera. So being in front of the camera is really a bit odd for me. I hope you'll bear with me. Time will tell how well I do over here. And I also have to tell you that today I'm all alone here running the shop. All of my website assistants and my photo studio assistants are gone, so I'm running the entire show myself, and we'll just see how this works out. I'm shooting this video with my GoPro Hero 3 Plus, and I have a little zoom microphone which is mic'd up here and got a little lapel mic running on it, and here's what that recording device looks like. It's pretty cool. It's kind of small. It's a Zoom H1. It gives a little bit better sound quality than using the audio and the microphone system that's in the Hero 3 in the GoPro. So that's what we're doing. And today what I wanted to do was talk with you a little bit about my new photography acquisition. I've written a couple of articles recently about a quadricopter that I purchased. It's a Phantom Vision 2 Plus, and it's basically a four-propped helicopter that is run remote control, and it is pretty awesome. It's taken me a little while to learn how to use it, but I'm getting better at it, and I've put some videos up already of some of the flights I've taken around the Kansas City area here. But today I thought I'd share a little bit about the quadricopter itself. So first of all, just let me show it to you. This is what it looks like. It's really not all that large. It's roughly 12 to 14 inches across, about 9 inches deep. I know those facts because I've been trying to find a good protective case to keep it in. So it's got four props. They're counter-rotating, so they balance, so there's no torque one way or the other. And even though it's very small, it is really a high-tech piece of equipment, and I'm truly impressed with it. Now, of course, you can spend a gazillion dollars on quadricopters. Professional videographers use octocopters. You know, they got a number of blades, and they spend like $10,000, $15,000 for really stable helicopter platforms to shoot from. Well, quite honestly, I'm not in that league. So I've been watching the development of remote-controlled vehicles for photography for some time, and I first became acquainted with the Vision product. It's made by a company called DJI. You can see the little DJI there on the top. Actually, I've also added a few little specializations here. I have a KU Jayhawk on top of mine just to make sure that it doesn't get confused with all those other quadricopters up in the sky. Anyway, I've been watching the development of DJI's kind of entry-level quadricopters, and there have been some downsides to them in the past. They've been pretty much at the basic fundamental hobbyist level. If you wanted to do some photography with it, you had to add a lot of things to it, but this DJI Phantom Vision 2 Plus came out recently, and it put in one package all of the different items that I really wanted. So I decided to pull the trigger and got this, and it doesn't cost nearly $15,000. What it does incorporate, though, is just pretty amazing. First of all, it's fully stabilized with four rotors. Let me see, how can I best explain to you how this sucker operates? First of all, let me show you the battery. It's got a good solid battery. One of these goes in the rear. I already have one mounted in the back end here. This is a good sized battery which will keep this thing flying for roughly 20 minutes, which is, as I found out, plenty of time to shoot almost any kind of photography project that you would really like to shoot. Additionally, it already has a built-in camera, which you can see down here. Previous versions of the Phantom did not have a camera. Then they came out with one that did have a camera, but its resolution was really rather low. Another piece of this equipment here is a gimbal. Now, as I began to get into this, I didn't even know what a gimbal was. So basically, without a gimbal, if you have your camera attached to a flying platform such as this, when the quadricopter banks or turns or moves forward or moves backward, it's twisting and turning. And if the camera is affixed to the quadricopter in a firm manner, that video that you're going to get is also going to be banking and turning, which is sometimes that's what you like because you just want to get a feel of what that flight is really like. So you're just kind of like riding a bicycle or when you fly. So that's really nice. However, many times you're not really looking for that kind of herky-jerky kind of action. You're looking for something that's much more stabilized. What the gimbal does, it's a device that allows the camera to float freely beneath the quadricopter, independent of the pitch or axis or yaw of the flying platform. So I will show you kind of what that's like. It really only operates when the system is powered up, and I'm not going to power it up inside here, but I'll try to give you a sense of what it's like. I've got it locked in place right now. So now when I take that lock out, you can see that this camera basically just floats here. And it's not going to turn right now, but if the camera, when it's operating and the motors on the gimbal are up and running, this camera will actually stay stable no matter what happens with the quadricopter. You can see how that kind of moves freely and independently. You can also pan up or pan down with it. So that's a really nice feature to have. Additionally, there's a buffering feature here that isolates the camera platform from the quadricopter body, and that's really good to eliminate any vibration getting transferred from the flying machine down here to the camera. So basically, this incorporates all of those features in one out-of-the-box kind of package, which is really cool. Let me put this down. I'll show you what the control system looks like. Okay. This is the control panel. And what we have here, on-off switch, always important to know where that is. And it's basically very straightforward. The left side here goes up, push this way, helicopter goes up. Come down, helicopter comes down. Turn left here, helicopter just spins, it rotates this way. Turn this way, it rotates the opposite direction. On the right side, push forward, copter goes forward. Back, copter goes backwards. Right, left. So it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to manipulate. How does it get manipulated? How do you fly it? Well, there is a remote control antenna, and obviously there's a receiver in the quadricopter. And on paper at least, they say it's good for about 700 meters. I haven't really pushed the limits here. I'm not one of those people who's going to go and do wild and crazy things with this quadricopter. There are some people out there who are trying to find all kinds of ways to get in trouble with these things. But anyway, it's got more than enough range for me in terms of altitude or distance from the operating base. And one of the really neat parts about this system, and this is all built in, you could put your iPhone or Android phone or whatever up there. You can kind of see, right now I've got it synced up so it's actually showing me what the GoPro is seeing. But when I'm flying my quadricopter, my Phantom, on here I can actually see the live view from the camera feed on the helicopter, which is totally awesome, especially when you're doing the photography, so you can make sure what you've got in the shot is really what you want. It's also a good way to be able to tell which direction the quadricopter is flying and how to get it back home as well. So anyway, this links up through the Wi-Fi extender, and that's a Wi-Fi connection to the quadricopter. It's a direct downlink right into the iPhone or the Android phone. So it's got a lot of pieces to this package. You could quite honestly get a lower priced version of the Phantom which doesn't have all those pieces. You could basically get the quadricopter platform without the camera, without the gimbal, without this first-person point of view, and it would be cheaper. And I considered that because I do have the GoPro camera already, and that's a very small camera, and it's an excellent camera. And so if I wanted to, I could have gotten a smaller, a slightly cheaper version of the Phantom, and then put my GoPro onto the Phantom. However, by the time I did that, got the gimbal, got the first-person point of view, got all of those pieces together, it would have been adding on a lot of things. I'm technically oriented to a degree, but if things can go wrong, I can somehow make them go wrong. So this is just right out of the box, ready to go. And actually I have two cameras, so I can still use my Hero like this, my GoPro like this. And actually I've taken pictures with the GoPro while the helicopter's been flying. So I found it to be an advantage actually to have both cameras. So it's worked out pretty well. Wanted to tell you about a couple of the other really neat and high-tech features about this Phantom Vision 2 Plus. Flying it is really relatively easy because of the high-tech qualities that they've built into this. Prior to taking this off, once you power it up, it has a very small compass incorporated. You can perhaps see it right there. You calibrate the compass so the compass knows exactly where it is in terms of placement on the Earth. There are different angles of declination, I guess, is one of the terms that's involved here. So you want to know where true north is and where the location is. So you calibrate the compass, and then after powering up, you let it sit there for a few minutes, 30 seconds or so. And during that time, the Phantom has GPS input. And so it connects with multiple GPS satellites. And once it has a connection with at least 6 satellites, and I've seen mine connect with up to 10 so far, but with a minimum of 6 satellite GPS connections, it really knows where it is and it knows its location. So once you take this off and fly it, it takes off and flies. If you take your hands totally off all of those controls, it will maintain its position. It's not going to drift. The wind can blow it and it'll come back. It also, when it takes off, after establishing those GPS locks, it knows where it took off from. So if by some chance you lose battery power in your remote control unit or there's some other kind of problem, as soon as it detects a loss of signal, it rises to 60 feet and returns home and automatically lands where it took off. And I did test that out just by switching off my remote control unit, and lo and behold, it went on autopilot, came back and landed it within like 10 feet of where it originally took off. Once it lands, it powers itself down, because you don't want this thing to be flying away. So that is really very nice to have this GPS stabilization quality, so that no matter where you are, if you really get confused, you can just take your fingers off the controls and it will just hover. No matter what altitude, no matter what orientation, it'll just stay there and hover. And that's really nice, because when you fly any remote control device, it's a little bit different than piloting an airplane. I've had my pilot's license in the past. I don't keep it current. I don't do that anymore. But When you're in an airplane, you always know where right is and left is and where up is and down is. When you're piloting a remote control device, you only know that as long as the device is flying away from you. When you fly the device directly away from you, right is right and left is left. But as soon as you turn this helicopter around, now things are different. And when you turn it around to come back towards you, everything is totally reversed. So you have to know which direction the Phantom is flying. If you get confused, at least with this, you can let it hover, stabilize, and get yourself reoriented. One way you can reorient yourself is to take a look at the video feed and see what it's looking at. That's what I use very, very frequently. Additionally, you'll notice on the front there are two red decals. That's the front. You can't see them because they're not turned on, but there's a lighting system on the bottom as well. The front two lights are, I believe, yellow or green or red. I can't recall quite honestly. And the back two lights are green. So you have multiple ways to try to keep track of which direction it's flying, which is a really good idea because otherwise you could just fly it and it would fly away. I've only had one occasion where I lost sight of it. I was flying out over some large fields out in Kansas, and I was next to a road, and as a car came by, I glanced at the car that went by, and I could not relocate where this little thing was in the sky because I'd had it pretty high at that time. So basically what I ended up doing was I panned the camera downward to a degree because you can tell which angle it's looking at through the video feed. And then I slowly, I didn't take the quadricopter forward or backwards, but I slowly panned to give myself a view of the ground. And finally I could locate where I was. With that location, then I was back in business. So that GPS lock is just an outstanding feature, making it much easier to fly, much safer for everybody when you're flying it, because you have to fly these in a responsible fashion. These blades are flying around really, really quickly. You don't want them to come down and hurt somebody. You don't want this to fly away and get lost because it's expensive. So you don't want to be doing any wild and crazy things. So anybody out there considering or already flying this kind of a quadricopter or any other kind of remote control device, please use it with courtesy and caution and fly safe. That's a really important message because otherwise there are going to be problems and people are going to make all kinds of rules and place all kinds of restrictions on these devices, and it's going to be a bad time for everybody. Anyway, I'm really enthused about this. I can't wait to get it out and fly it, see different kinds of things because it gives you some really interesting aerial perspectives on things. So I'm loving it and getting better at flying it all the time. And flying it is not just a matter of flying it, but also learning how to fly it in a fashion to give pleasing and interesting video feeds. So hopefully I'm getting better with that, and I plan to be showing a lot of these in the future. So that's my introduction to my DJI Phantom Vision 2 Plus quadricopter. If you have any questions, feel free to message me about that. Be glad to talk with you about it. I'm getting in touch with other hobbyists who use this flying platform, and everybody seems to really enjoy it. So until next time, that's all for today from Travel and Photo Today. Take care.